Good evening and welcome to Real Talk with Tamara. As you guys come into the room, please do hit the like button. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. I hope that you guys are doing okay on today. I know that I am. I always express the importance of hitting the like button because the like button helps to keep the video in the algorithm, okay? The algorithm. So, like, share, subscribe, comment, all of those great things. If you would like to support the channel, you can support the channel via Cash App. That's $ Real Talk with Tamara or Super Thanks, okay? I have two topics that I wanted to talk about. I had to get a video in tonight before I retire. I've been out since 8 o'clock this morning. Didn't get home until 8 o'clock tonight, and it's 9:42. Okay. Um. Anyways, um, I wanted to talk about um a woman was arrested for putting a weapon to an officer's head, and a dad, Drugged, a smoothie of 12-year-old 12 girls that was at his daughter's sleepovers. Okay. So I want to talk about both of those because I was like, Lord, we already know that the world is crazy and people have lost their minds and stuff. But I'm gonna tell you something. Like, I'm still like in awe of how um people like my age, like in their 40s and stuff, they know better. We talk about the younger generation and how they didn't, have any guidance, which they still know right from wrong. So we can't tell, we can't give them excuses, but at least a lot of them do have that excuse, right? That they didn't have they don't have any guidance. But I'm trying to figure out, is it in the food, or is it in the water, or in the air? Because people have lost their rabbit ass minds, okay? They are completely out of control. Completely out of control. I might have another thing that I want to talk about, y'all. I think I'm going to talk about three things, okay? But the first thing I want to talk about, woman was arrested for putting a weapon to an officer's head. Let's go to that. Okay? Let's go to that. Okay? This is her. It says woman arrested for putting a gun to a Mississippi officer's head. This was in Oxford, Mississippi, which is about maybe 50 minutes away from Memphis. Oxford is not that far down there, no more than an hour and 10, but I don't even think it's an hour. Okay. Further south, it says a woman is in custody after putting a gun to an officer's head in Oxford. A press release says that at 1:58 a.m. Sunday, the Oxford Police Department responded to a disturbance at the Double Quick parking lot. An officer arrived and observed a very large crowd gathered. While walking to the parking lot, the officer saw a fight between two males next to a gas pump and attempted to break it up by pulling on the male that was on top. According to the press release, that's when Jacqueline Denise Giles, this is the lady right here, 36 years old, pressed a gun on the officer's temple. The officer quickly turned and was able to remove the weapon from Giles. Officers later learned that the gun was stolen from Oxford in 2020. This incident should remind everyone why law enforcement says nothing is ever routine. There's a reason why we stay alert. There's a reason why we take every call seriously. There's a reason why more than one officer shows up at a stop or a call, says Chief Jeff McCutcheon. Giles was arrested without further incident. She is charged with aggravated assault on a law enforcement officer in possession of a stolen firearm. A municipal court judge gave Giles a $275,000 bond, which means what's $275,000 bond? What's she gonna need? About 27,000. My now I should know because I'm in that business. My head ain't on right, y'all, because I'm tired. 275,000. Y'all help me out. Is it 27,000? Yeah, I think it's 27,000. 27,500. Um, y'all, for some reason I can't move on when I should know something. I can never move on when I should know something. Yeah, I was right. 27,500. Um, I was right. When I should know something and my brain is fogged, I can't move on. So it's 27,500. 10% of that, that's what she would need for a bonding company to get her out. This incident could have been deadly if not for the calm response of our officers. This is now twice in less than 2 weeks that a call could have resulted in tragedy. I'm proud of our officers and their dedication and will continue to work hard to keep violent people out of the community. Now she crying and she look like her eyes red because she probably ain't got nobody that's got 27,000. And so, somebody might put their house up because when people, but the house has to be equivalent to $27,000, 500. And I don't mean no harm. Well, they're starting to build up in Oxford, you know. So I'm sure their houses, she might have somebody that be willing to put their house up for her. So but this is crazy. I remember when and I'm thinking about a lot of people are starting to move down to Oxford. It used to they're starting to build because it was a lot of old houses and stuff. I think Ole Miss is in Oxford. Of course, that's a very people love their college. Very expensive, and it's really like a college town. So they're starting to build up there. So yeah, because it was antiquated, down that way. So that's why I said that. I'm not trying to talk about nobody's house. Please don't ever think that. But I'm just thinking about in Oxford how antiquated it was. But the college has always been there, but they're starting to be more innovative and they're starting to build, and people are starting to build houses, buy land, and move down there to get away from the Memphis area, right? And I'm glad it did not result in anything either, because the further south you go, the worse it is. As far as like you talking about being prejudiced and the police and all of that, right? But this was definitely something serious. We talk about the police shooting people. We have to talk about people that also put the police lives in danger also. It's wrong too. I remember when I was working for the PD, they had started that where you could not make, especially a domestic violence call, you could not make a call, a domestic violence call without another officer. And it was a lot of police departments. Well, they tried to sue them, and I think that it's wrong. If the one officer got there before another, that's why they started having officers ride two in a car. If one officer got there before the other, they would have to wait and not show themselves on the scene. They'd have to wait up the street with whatever was going on until the officer got there. And people was mad about that. It's like police saw everything and didn't do anything. That is because of the danger of one officer answering calls, because so many officers were getting hurt. When there was a DV situation, it always turns into, if the officer always, for some reason, especially if the woman has Stockholm syndrome of something, they walk into the house and the man is on top of the woman, punching her, beating her. I remember an officer when I was working in felony response that had come up there was talking about how they had brought a lady up there. They had made a DV call, and he says that he walked in and the man was pounding her in the face. One of the children had called the police, and he was pounding her in her face like she was a man, closed fist. And he said he walked in and immediately started trying to get him off of her, and he had to manhandle him. Okay, so he had to use force. And the next thing he knows, she was standing over him. She had grabbed a butcher knife and told the officer, "Get your MF in hand off of my nigga." Okay, get ready to stab the officer. And so it's situations like that that happen where officers cannot, especially with domestic violence situations, they cannot answer calls without another officer being there. If one officer make the scene before the other one, he has to stand down at the end of the street. Because why the officer ain't down here? Those are the rules and the policy. So it's not the officer, it's them going by safety rules, right? And if he's to answer that call before his partner shows scene, then he could get written up, right? Unfortunately, that's how it is. But I'm glad that nobody was hurt. But that was just plain crazy. Why would she put a gun to an officer's head? People are completely losing their minds. That's what I'm talking about, y'all. When I say people are losing their minds and stuff, they act like they're crazy. They act just like it's something the matter with them. And so stuff like this, um, it's just careless and uncalled for, because it was to no resolve. I'm happy, because at that point she was a threat to the officer. Probably a newer officer or something like that may would have took her down. I'm happy that it didn't happen, but it could have. But it could have. Okay. So she's in there on $275,000 bond, and hey, everybody got to live. Okay. I thought that was interesting, especially down in the Oxford. Oh, it's racist down there. So hey, maybe they were black officers. No newer officers were around or whatever. And especially that don't understand culture, they would have. And she was a threat. She was a immediate threat. And that's what people don't understand. When you become an immediate threat to the police, their job, you trained in the academy to take the threat down, right? That's what you're trying to do. So, but anyways, I'm happy that nobody was hurt. Okay. But I want to move on to the next story. A dad drugged smoothies of three 12-year-old girls at his daughter's sleepover. Okay. Here it is. It says, yeah. According to a court documents, 57-year-old Michael Maiden turned himself in after being accused of giving three 12-year-old girls a sleeping drug during his daughter's sleepover in Lake Oswego home in August of 2023. But they're just charging him now. That's in Oregon. It says Maiden pleaded not guilty Wednesday and faces charges including causing another person to ingest a controlled substance. But let's see what they're saying on here.
Now to a disturbing story out of Lake Oswego this morning, where a father is accused of drugging three 12-year-old girls at his home during his daughter's sleepover. Fox's Bonnie Silkman is joining us now in studio after looking over court documents. Bonnie, good morning.
Good morning. That's right. A father in Lake Oswego, 57-year-old Michael Maiden, turned himself in this week after being accused of lacing mango smoothies with a drug that's usually used to treat insomnia and panic attacks, and then giving those drinks to three 12-year-old girls at his daughter's sleepover. According to court documents, this all happened in August of last year in Maiden's Lake Oswego home. He's accused of putting the drug benzodiazepine into those smoothies. Court documents say the girls reported feeling groggy, some of them even blacking out. The documents also say that Maiden made repeated visits to the basement where the girls were sleeping, watching them sleep, and at one point even holding his finger under one girl's nose and waving his hand in front of her face to see if she was asleep. Now, one of those girls, according to court documents, managed to stay awake. She texted her mother just before 2 a.m. saying, quote, "Mom, please pick me up and say I had a family emergency. I don't feel safe." I might not respond, but please come get me. Please, please pick up. Please, please. The documents also say that she then contacted a family friend who picked her up and took her home to wake her parents. And around 3 a.m., two of the other parents of the girls went to the house to get them. Documents say Maiden resisted letting those parents inside at first, telling the parents the girls were asleep. Maiden finally let the parents in, and the girls were taken home. All three girls did test positive for that drug. Maiden, meanwhile, pleaded not guilty yesterday. He is facing charges, including causing another person to ingest a controlled substance. And according to those court documents, he lives in Vancouver and did pay his bail. We'll keep a close eye on this developing case. Mia.
Woo! Child, with a name like Maiden, Michael Maiden. Let me see if I can pull him up, a 57-year-old freak. Let me tell y'all something. This is the reasons why I started to feel guilty at one time. Look at him. Yeah, he's a freak. He is a freak. Look at him. Now, he did this back in August, and now he's just facing charges now. Hold on, y'all. This is him right here, a freak. He's a freak. And he's out. Y'all, this is why I didn't let my girls spend the night at people's houses. And my mother didn't let me, really, other than Vanessa. And that's because her mother was strict. I couldn't spend the night with people. I couldn't. And I felt guilty because I did the same thing to my girls. But by this time, I was working for the PD. And so I started seeing all kinds of stuff. So it was always out of the question. And because I felt so guilty, even then, I overly compensated my girls. Like at least a couple times a month, we had slumber parties at my house. I took them I took them to the movies, ordered pizza, did all of that so that they could have a healthy childhood. I overly compensated because I would not let them spend the night at their friend's house. And I always told their mothers, look, I understand if you don't want your child to spend the night with me, but I just can't. I don't let my kids spend the night with anyone other than me. They have to be at home, and this is why, because of these freaks. Now, if they had passed out, what was he gonna do? It just so happens that they did not pass out. What was he going to do? He was waiting for them to pass out so he could do God knows what. We already know what he was going to do. Y'all, this is crazy. These people are absolutely freaks. Like, he's 57 years old, so I'm sure he's been chest to chest to the child, you know what, forever. Right? I'm sure he's been there forever. And they need to talk to his daughter because these are 12-year-old babies. And so they tested positive. They tested positive, hey, for the drugs. He called himself gonna pass. They gonna pass out. They probably would have never even seen their daughters again because he looked like one of them freaks that do something to kids and then go and bury them or something. That's why I say we have to be very meticulous. You could love the child, that's your child's friend. You could love the child, but you don't really know the parents. You don't. And that's why I say people have lost their rabbit ass minds. And I'm serious, they have. They've lost their rabbit minds. Just crazy. I wonder what he does for a living. What does he do for a living? That's what I want to know. Michael Maiden. I wants to know what he do for a living. I don't know. But his picture needs to go up. I'm going to put his picture up on the thing. Damn freak. Stuff like this make me mad, y'all. I'm very protective of children. I am. And even with my daughters, I was thinking about that today. I was thinking about, I was talking to this guy when my girls were younger. So y'all know this went forever ago. And we was thinking about getting serious. And I remember, talking to him about, I guess, trying to be, because I always had walls up. So I remember trying to let my wall down a little bit and talk to him about, how I've always been protective of my kids. And I didn't date a lot because of my children. Like, my girls were watching me, right? So so it would be something new to be bringing a guy around my children. And I remember just talking to him more. And I remember he said, well, because my girls had to have been about 9, maybe like 9 and 6, like 9 and 6, if they weren't, yeah, around that age, like 9 and 6. And I remember, or 7 and 10 or something like that. And I remember him saying, well, one day, well, if we're gonna get serious, if I'm gonna be a constant figure, you can't have no problem with me whooping their ass. I said, what did you say? Out of all the things that he could have said, because my girls were not bad. Out of all the things he could have said, I love them. All the things good. What was at the top of his brain was whooping my children so that they could submit to him. Y'all, I must have cussed him out from here all the way to Tokyo. And I cussed him out like he was a damn dog. And then I got to thinking about one time, and I always felt like it was just better that I don't know. I felt like I was my kids' protectors, right? Protector. And so I got to thinking about some more stuff. I was like, he I don't want him around me. He cannot be around me. I started thinking about, look, it seemed like I started thinking about little creepy stuff that he would say. And he started playing in my head. Like, you just have to be very careful, right? Because why would you want to come in trying to put fear in my daughters? My girls were happy children. They were happy. They were not, they weren't disrespectful when they did try to talk back or whatever. They got their butts whooped, but I didn't have to do that often. But the first thing that you could think about, rather than saying something else, I want to be positive, this, and that. And that was not going to happen right away. But to already come in talking about traumatizing I feel that's how I looked at it. Nigga, you weren't my husband. Why you think you're gonna put your damn hands on my children? And if you were my husband, you weren't going to. I didn't play that about my kids. I didn't. But that was a red flag to me. And so I said that to say that you have to be very meticulous about, and I'm not saying, that's a whole nother story, because I'm going somewhere else with this. Not a good man that comes in and your kids are wayward and he comes in with structure. Not that. I'm talking about men that come in immediately feeling like they should put fear, especially in your daughters. You have to watch that when they come in wanting to put fear in them, because they might be a damn child molester. And I'm just telling you. And I worked for the PD for so long. I heard the stories. I know the signs, and I'm not saying that he was. I'm just saying I didn't want to have to unload on the nigga. I didn't want to have to find out if he was. Okay. But this right here is a freak. And this is why we have to be very careful, and don't, excuse my French, and not be dick hungry. Right? And don't bring Tom, Dick, and Harry around your damn children. Right? These folks don't even get to know these people before they're bringing them around their kids. Okay? They don't even get to know them. I think I told y'all the story about when I first started working for the PD, and a girl had a 6-month-old baby, and she moved a dude in that was not A 6-month-old baby is a new baby. And she moves a guy in that's not even the father of the child. And he tried to penetrate the child. He keeping the 6-month-old baby while she at work. Now, if you got a 6-month-old baby, you didn't even know this dude. He wasn't even the baby daddy. She didn't know him. She just moved him in. And he tried to penetrate the child and tore the child open. And then went to the Walmart, I believe, and got a needle and thread because he tore the 6 month. I got daughters, and I know a 6 months old, a child is not even open down now. A child is not even open. So, um, but I ain't gonna lie. Those officers that made the scene tore his ass out the frame before he even came and got questioned. He had to stop by the med. They tore his ass out the frame, and the damn lieutenant didn't say a damn word. Okay. But anyways, with this guy, I just wonder what's gonna happen because so often when men like this, okay, because I'm looking at him, we see how he look. Is it gonna be brushed up under the rug? I should have pulled his history. Has stuff like does he have a history of doing stuff like this? I hate I wasn't thinking because I'm tired. I could have did some stuff before I got on here and to see if there was a history of doing it because people don't have an epiphany and decide one day they want to drug some. He might have been doing it to his own daughter, and it's so weird because I'm gonna tell you something. I had one of my interns one year. I have interns to come. I didn't have any last year, but I'm gonna have some this year. They come over to my studio and they work for me, right? And for a grade. And so I had one that came from Atlanta one year, but she lives down here in Mississippi. And she wanted to be close to home for the summer. So she was coming every day and I loved it. She did video work. And I remember I told her, you know what, I want to do a little short story on some women who had been some young ladies who had been violated, you know, um, when they were younger. And she finally said to me, and she was 20 years old. She said, "I can't wait to I can't wait to record that." I said, "Really? Why?" She says, "I know someone who was violated for years." I was like, "Who?" And she was like, "Me. My biological father did it to me." And she said, "For so many years, for he did it to me for so many years." And she said that I'm trying to think that no, I don't think she said he didn't penetrate her. She said, but even now I have issues with like birthdays. She said, I have issues with birthdays. My birthday, especially my dad's birthday. I said, why? She said, because on birthdays, my dad, I never forget, my dad would look at me a certain way and say, well, what are you going to give me for my birthday? She said he did that from the time I was 6 years old all the way up until I was 15 years old. And I said, I don't want to do it anymore. She says, and when I started rejecting it, he stopped. He stopped. She said, and so finally my sister and I told my mom, she says, he penetrated my sister. He didn't penetrate me. He just made me perform oral situations on him. He would look at me and say, what are you going to give me for my birthday? And he would make me perform. This was her biological father. And with my interns, I always treat them like babies and I spoil them so much because they be 19, 20, 21 years old, just around the same age as my kids. And I promise you that hurt me. She and I are still in contact to this day. She just recently got married and stuff. Um, you know, hey, I wish she could come and work for me now, but she's living further down in Mississippi, like further south down in Mississippi where her husband, but stuff like this happens. That's the reason why I say he didn't just have an epiphany, right? She said when she finally told her mother, because her mother works for an airline, and she says, sometimes I felt like my mother knew. She said, I felt like she knew, but she worked so much, she turned a blind eye. She said, so we told her one day, and she was forced to deal with it. And she said something to my dad about it after we told her. And my mother said, she said, my dad says, oh, well, I guess I'll just go turn myself in to the South Haven Police Department. And he went and turned himself in. He's been sentenced. He was sentenced to like 2 years. And that's all. So that's the reason why I say I have issues with them giving people, dudes. And I don't glorify this. Guys that standing on the corner selling weed or something like that, 30 years. But you get freaks like this, 30 days, 2 years. And he probably didn't do the full 2 years. This freak is out on already on bond. And he probably gonna get a slap on the wrist. So you trying to tell me dudes that are standing on the corner selling weed and stuff, don't bother nobody, they get their money and go home, weed that they made legal anyways, because the folks paying taxes on it, and they get their money, go home, take care of their family, don't bother nobody, ain't seen nothing, don't pay. So I guess it's a bigger sin not to pay taxes on the weed that they selling on the corner than it is what these freaks are doing to these children. Yeah, I have issues with that. As a matter of fact, I have issues with them arresting and giving anybody that's selling drugs that ain't killing and violating nobody 30 years. And it's backwards. And these fools getting 30 days or nothing. I have issues with that. I've never had any qualms about saying it. Okay? But anyways, I know somebody gonna say she just feel that way because she always dated them street dudes. Let me tell you something. The street dudes that I dated was very methodical and intelligent and respectful. I grew up around them, so of course I dated some of them. The ones that I was always I grew up in the hood. My family was in the hood, so that's what I was around. I've dated some guys that were not, because even I'm telling you, the ones that weren't street dudes, they were recovering street dudes. Okay. But anyways, you guys, I want you guys to please like, share, and subscribe. If you would like to support the channel, you could definitely support the channel via Cash App.